drug treatment when you stop reporting. So, in fact, you meet all three criteria on discretionary. If the court wanted to send a consecutive sentence, I have the ability to do so based upon the law, so I note that for the record. And then finally, for the record, I'll go back to 2002 when you first became involved in the criminal justice system. And in fact, as noted, there are a number of cases of domestic violence. There are cases of drugs and trafficking, menacing. In fact, the first time you came into the court on a domestic violence was back in 2009. That was the first time that case was placed against you in Cleveland. You completed probation successfully, and then soon after probation was completed, you pick up the felony domestic violence, and in fact, you picked up 2 of those. Judge Donnelly sentenced you to 18 months at Lorraine Correctional Institution. I believe that Ms. Johnson was the victim, is that correct?
She was the victim in all 3 of his prior domestic violence cases.
All right, thank you. And then in getting out of prison and finding yourself right back in front of Judge Kathleen Satula, another domestic violence, another 18-month sentence. And again, I noted the case you're on probation to me on, and then the case that you find yourself before the court. I'll note for the record that the 3 counts you pled guilty to on January 14th was the aggravated murder with the 3-year firearm specification and the 1-year firearm specification. That's an unclassified, and I went through with you the possible sentence of life without parole, 30 years plus 3 years with a chance of parole after 33, 28 years, and then 23 years, all possibilities with the 3-year gun spec before you would be eligible for parole. The second count was an offense against human corpse, a felony of the 5th degree. We talked about the maximum sentence being 6 to 12 months. And then finally, the third count was tampering with evidence, felony of the 3rd degree. We talked about that being a low-tier felony of the 3rd degree, maximum sentence 9 months, 18 months, 24 months, 30 months, and 36 months. I apologize, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24, 30, and 36. Have I misstated any of the plea offer or plea that he had taken on January 14th?
Plea, brother.
Sure. So in correcting the record, so if I'm correct on behalf of the state, the sentencing memorandum is incorrect.
Yes.
Okay, I was reading off of that just to make it. So in fact, the sentence for the unclassified count 1 murder charge is life without parole, 30 years plus the 3 on the gun spec until parole eligible, and then 20 years plus the 3-year gun spec before parole eligible. I mentioned 25 years, and I apologize, that's incorrect. And when I went to the, in fact, the colloquy at the time of sentencing, or at the time of the change of plea, I also spoke on the record to Mr. Bradley about those 3 options as being sentencing, 33, 23, and life without parole. So at the time of the plea, it was correct. I just inadvertently stated it as I was reading your brief as well. So is that a fair correction for the record?
That's correct.
Okay,
yes,
thank you. Okay, so moving forward with sentencing, we'll first deal with the case that he's on probation to the court. And what I'm going to do is case number 602129. I'm going to find him to be a probation violator, order my sentence into execution, which was 10 months, but then I'll give him credit for the 10 months because he's already served that time while being incarcerated here. and then waive any fines, fees, or court costs, and then terminate that case. So that case is no longer in play at this time. With respect to the sentence before the court, there's a couple things, Mr. Bradley, I'll state to you as a judge, and then I'll move forward with sentencing. With respect to rehabilitation and incarceration and where the court may find myself, I know that Mr. Ramsey indicates, could there be a chance, a happen chance from some time from now that rehabilitation is something that may happen with respect to you, and let the parole board maybe make that determination? I just note for the record, Mr. Ramsey said, is it possible? And I'll just note that for 17 years it hasn't been possible. So I note, since your time of being involved in the criminal justice system, at least as an adult since 2002 till today, it hasn't been possible, because you continue to find yourself walking through that door into a courtroom because it's been impossible to rehabilitate you. And so I struggle with, does any more time of incarceration give you the possibility of being rehabilitated? And so that's a thought I have. But with respect to the counts before me and whether they are consecutive or not, I'm going to go to first count 12 of the indictment, tampering with evidence. The court's going to find that a sentence of 24 months is a handing down from this court, finding that you're not amenable to a community control sanction. So 24 months on count 12 of the indictment. With respect to the offense of against a human corpse, the court's going to sentence you to 1 year of incarceration and run those times concurrent to each other on count 10 of the indictment. With respect to count 1 of the indictment, count 2 of the indictment that you've pled guilty to, I'd say this to you, Mr. Bradley. For those people in the courtroom, you've extinguished Miss Johnson's, what I would say, her candle of life. And nobody has the right to take a person's life. For the family, that candle will never go out, because she'll continue to be a daughter or a mother or a friend of those individuals. Looking at the brutality that was used with respect to her life being taken by your hands, I believe it rises to the worst of the worst offense, Mr. Bradley. And I believe at this time that you have forfeited your place in a free society, and your sentence will be life without parole, plus the 3 years to run consecutive to that. All other counts will be run concurrent. I'll waive any fines, fees, or court costs. I'll order the deputy to transport you. You'll get credit for 316 days with respect to this case. I do not find that at any point in the rest of your life there is a chance that you can be rehabilitated, and you've shown that by your actions and continual actions in the criminal justice system for the last 17 years. Again, waiving all fines, fees, and court costs, I'm going to order you in the custody of the sheriff to transport you. I know that counts 10 and 12, I have to discuss PRC, so I'll indicate that on count 12, tampering with evidence is 3 years non-mandatory, and count 10 is 3 years non-mandatory discretionary. That'll never come into play since you will have no chance of walking through another gate, another jail cell to inflict harm on any individuals in our society. I'll order you in the custody of the sheriff to transport you. Is there anything further from the state?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Ramsey?
Yeah, just 2 things, Your Honor. One, we would ask the court to appoint another counsel for Mr. Bradley in regards to the sentence, of course. And also, he's asked if he could not be transported for the next 2 weeks, if that's possible, for visitation.
Yeah, so I don't handle the work of the sheriff. The sheriff will transport him the next time he's eligible to be transported. With respect to appointing counsel, the court will find that he's indigent and that counsel should be appointed. I'm going to ask the Court of Appeals to appoint his counsel for him. I know that this court has been doing that, as opposed to having someone appointed from myself that may be the subject of the appeal. I'll ask the Court of Appeals to appoint appellate counsel to represent him, finding him indigent at this time as well. Anything further for the record?
No, Judge.
All right, I'll order him in the execution at this time, Sheriff, to transport. We'll adjourn.